What's going on, Jam Fam? Welcome back to the gaming station. So they did balance changes the other day, and while I'm a few days late, I still want to get a video out talking about them. As usual, I'll mention the change, and then we'll talk about what I think about the change itself. As of right now, I still haven't played all of the brawlers that receive balance changes, so if I'm way off base about any of these, please let me know down in the comments. Also, if you disagree with anything I have to say, or just want to add to the conversation, feel free to comment that down below as well. Alright, so this round of balance changes, 6 brawlers got nerfed and 4 got buffs. And we'll start with the buffs. First brawler I want to talk about is Shelly. First thing she got was her dash gadget got a range buff, so it matches Max's dash range. Also, her shell shock slow duration got increased by half a second, so now it lasts for 4.5 seconds. And her band-aid HP heal went from 1800 to 2000. I think the gadget buff is fine. That's the one thing that really helps cover Shelly's biggest weakness, which is her terrible damage at long range. So this will help make her gap closing better, even if it's just a little bit. However, I'm not really a big fan of the star power buffs. First off, I don't really think Shell Shock needed a buff. I think the slow from it was fine the way it was. And I personally think Band-Aid is still going to be a really bad star power. It takes 15 seconds to charge, and you get 2000 HP back from it, which is an okay amount, but that's really only one extra shot from most brawlers. And like I said, the cooldown on it is super long. I personally think she needs a whole new star power and just replace Band-Aid at this point, because I don't really see it being viable in most of the game modes. Alright, moving on from Shelly, we got Brock. He got a 5% damage increase to his normal attack. I do like this change, as I feel like Brock's been lacking in damage ever since his nerf like 2 seasons ago or something like that. I do feel like he needs a small HP buff, nothing crazy, just enough for him to survive an extra shot here and there. But as of right now, I think a damage buff is perfectly fine, and if he's still struggling, I would hope to see an HP buff in the next round of balance changes. Alright, Carl got a projectile speed increase, so now his hook flies faster, and technically his reload speed increased if you think about it like that too. I actually thought Carl was fine after the buff that he got to his shield star power. He wasn't overpowered or anything, but he did feel solid to play. So this will just make him even better, and I won't be surprised if he ends up as a solid meta brawler for the summer because of this. And the last buff of the month is that Dynamike got a movement speed buff, so now he has a fast movement speed, the same as Tanks. After Barley got his buffs the last round of balance changes, I was expecting Dynamike to get a buff since he was clearly the worst thrower in the entire game. However, I didn't think this was going to be the buff, and I honestly don't even know how I feel about it. I have no idea how it plays in game or if the buff even really makes him viable or not. I will say that I have said for a very long time that speed makes brawlers really strong. Anytime a brawler gets a big speed buff, they normally are a lot stronger than they were previously. However, I don't know if that really applies to throwers because you don't think of them needing that mobility like a tank or a mid-range brawler would need. So I won't be surprised if this doesn't really help Dynamike in the long run and he needs another buff in the future. However, real quick, I do want to say there's a build that has crazy mobility if you run Dyna Jump and Fidget Spinner. And having a high mobility thrower is a funny concept and it seems pretty troll to me. If any of you guys have tried that out, please let me know down in the comments and let me know what you think about it. Okay, moving on to the nerfs, we're going to start with Sandy and Poco because they pretty much got the exact same nerf. Now both of them require 1 extra hit to charge their supers. Poco will take 5 attacks and Sandy will take 6. These were both justified nerfs as both brawlers were clearly on the very strong side of the meta. So for Sandy, I think he's going to be perfectly fine because of how much utility his super offers a team. I think that a super duration or radius nerf would have done him a lot better. I don't think this is really going to change too much about his kit. As for Poco, I think he's going to fall out of the meta as he's really only going to offer value to Poco double tank teams again. Him charging his super in 4 hits made it so he got so much value from screeching solo and was still able to heal his team at a very consistent rate. I think that 1 extra hit to charge his super is really going to change that quite a bit. Alright, next up, Belle got a range nerf. Definitely no surprise there. Now she has the same range as the rest of the snipers, and them quickly walking back her range makes me wonder why they released her with it being so long in the first place. With her projectile speed not being touched, I think she's going to be perfectly fine. I think this is more to make it so she doesn't stand out as the clear-cut best sniper in modes like Bounty and real open gem grab maps, because now out of all the snipers, she doesn't have the longest range and offer the most team utility, so I think this is just to bring all the snipers more leveled with each other. Alright, next up, Barley got a range nerf. They're basically just reverting the range buff that he got last month. I don't think anybody should be shocked that a brawler that got 2 damage buffs and a range buff was one of the staple brawlers in a meta. I think I personally would have preferred if they did a reload speed nerf for Barley instead of a range one so he couldn't spam shots quite as much. But overall, Barley's still going to have solid damage, especially if you're running extra Noxious. He just offers less control now because he can't quite hit the super long range that he had before. Alright, the second to last nerf is Jessie. Her turret health got nerfed by 6%. This was definitely needed in my opinion. Ever since Jessie got her main attack rework, she's been pretty solid in most of the modes. And her turret has low-key been very toxic, especially if she's running her Energize star power so she can just keep healing it up. So this nerf is attempting to fix that issue without killing the star power directly. We'll see how it ends up working out, but I don't think Jessie's going to be totally dead from this. I think she's still going to be very viable. She's just going to be a little more reined in. And the last nerf is that 8-Bit's plugged-in star power got a movement speed nerf from very fast movement speed to normal movement speed. And I'm honestly torn on this change. Plugged in was definitely what made 8-Bit very viable, but nerfing it so much from very fast to normal movement speed seems like a bit of an overstep to me. I mean, he's still going to have a ton of damage, long range, and a lot of HP, but dropping so much speed so quickly, I think it's going to kill him. However, while I think they might have overdone it with plugged in here, I still think you should be running that over boosted booster, because I think 8-Bit is pretty much unplayable when he has his very slow movement speed. Okay, so overall, I think all the brawlers that got nerfed definitely deserved it because they were all pretty good in the meta. I think my favorite nerf is probably the Belle one, since it won't really hurt her too much in the long run. It just really brings her more in line with the rest of the snipers, like I said earlier. And my least favorite nerf is probably the one to 8-Bit because I think they're overdoing the nerf quite a bit, and I think it has a good chance of killing him, like I said earlier. As for the buffs, I'm a little lukewarm on them. Brock's is okay, but the others I'm not really sure on. I don't really think Carl needed a buff, and I think as far as Band-Aid goes for Shelly, I think they need to really start consider reworking it because I don't really ever see it being balanced and viable without being overpowered. And then there's the Dynamike buff, and it's really the most interesting one out of the bunch, and I'm really curious to see how it ends up working out. But I'm not going to be surprised if it doesn't help him at all, and they need to give him another buff in the next round of balance changes or the one after that. But what do you think about these balance changes? Let me know what your favorite one was, what your least favorite one was, and what brawler you think they missed on either of the lists. Again, I'm sorry for getting this out a few days late, but the time they announced it for me wasn't great, and like I said at the start of the video, I just wanted to get my thoughts out about the changes and hear what you guys thought as well. But anyway, that's going to do it for this one. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.